Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The death toll in Israel and Palestine has soared to over 2,200, with at least 1,200 Israelis and 1,000 Palestinians killed since Hamas's surprise attack on southern Israel Saturday. The majority of Palestinian deaths are in Gaza. At least 18 deaths were reported in the West Bank. Israel's amassing some 300,000 reservists close to Gaza as it continues to pound the besieged enclave with airstrikes. Officials warn Gaza is on the cusp of a humanitarian catastrophe as the territory's power plant is running out of fuel. The scale of atrocities committed against civilians continues to come to light. In Gaza, rescuers are still pulling bodies from the rubble as desperate residents seek refuge.
They tried to escape death only to find it. The occupation planes followed them from the east to here. They came to find shelter. They were taking refuge next to the stairs where it could have been a safe place. They targeted them and killed them. This is the blood of injured people. Some injured people were sleeping here. This is their blood. Here there was a mother and her children. We removed the woman in the evening and the children were martyred, and we just took them out from under the rubble.
Among the dead in Gaza are at least 7 journalists. On Tuesday, media workers held a funeral procession for 2 of the slain reporters. Blue press helmets were placed on their bodies. The local press union said the head of its committee of women journalists, Salam Khalil, was killed alongside her husband and children when their home was bombed. Gazan journalist Plestia Al-Akkad has been chronicling the war on social media, giving a rare first-person insight into the constant evacuations, bombings, and deprivation faced by residents of Gaza.
We're all gathering at our neighbor's house, no internet, no electricity until now. It's around 7 p.m. We literally don't know what's happening in the world. Here we're just listening to bombs.
In Israel, over 100 bodies were found at the Be'eri kibbutz near Israel's separation barrier with Gaza. It was one of several kibbutzim attacked by Hamas fighters, killing entire families, including children. Meanwhile, at least 100 hostages are believed to be held by Hamas in Gaza. Among those missing are U.S. citizens. This is Jonathan Dekelchen, father of Sagi Dekelchen.
Kibbutz Nir Oz is no more. It was destroyed in a barbaric, inhuman attack in which dozens of my friends, my neighbors, were killed. Many dozens more are either known to be hostages or missing. I'm here speaking today, reaching out to my son Sagi, who grew up on the kibbutz, Sagi Dekelchen. He's an arm length away in Gaza, evidently, but couldn't be farther from me and our family right now.
President Biden spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Tuesday. He did not urge restraint in Israel's response to Hamas's attack. Later in the day, Biden made public remarks about the conflict.
This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed.
President Biden did not refer to slain Palestinians or the illegal Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories in his remarks. The first shipment of advanced weaponry from the U.S. arrived in Israel Tuesday. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to land in Israel Thursday. We'll have the latest on the violence in Israel and Palestine after headlines. Afghanistan was rocked by another 6.3 magnitude earthquake early this morning in western Herat province, as local people are still reeling from Saturday's series of deadly quakes. The region's governor said today's earthquake caused huge losses, though it's not clear yet how many people were killed or displaced. Rescuers are still working to recover residents who perished over the weekend. This is one of the survivors.
In some neighboring villages, dead bodies are still under the rubble. They couldn't pull the bodies yet. Some people have tents, and some do not. I have no tent. We cannot spend the winter here.
It's believed at least 3,000 Afghanis were killed in the first earthquake this weekend. In Burma, at least 29 people, including children, were killed in a military raid Monday night on a refugee camp in northern Kachin State, near the border with China. The camp is home to people displaced by violence and was located just a few miles away from the headquarters of the Kachin Independence Army, which has been in a decades-long conflict with the Burmese army. This is one of the deadliest assaults on civilians since the military seized power in the February 2021 coup. The National Unity Government, which was established by democratically elected Burmese politicians ousted during the coup, condemned the attack as a war crime. A spokesperson for the military junta has denied responsibility, though a recent UN human rights report found a, quote, seemingly endless spiral of military violence in Burma. In the Netherlands, climate activists are celebrating after lawmakers Tuesday approved a motion requiring the Dutch cabinet to come up with a plan to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. This comes after a sustained campaign by activists, including a nearly month-long blockade of a major highway. This is Lucas Winups of Extinction Rebellion Netherlands.
After a month-long of daily protests and more than 9,000 arrests, the Dutch parliament asked the cabinet to come up with scenarios for a phase-out of fossil fuel subsidies. During this campaign, we achieved a transformation, I think, of Dutch society, with 3/4 of the people now wanting a phase-out of fossil fuel subsidies, and even 1/3 of the people wanting an immediate stop on fossil fuel subsidies, and that is the Extinction Rebellion demand. So, a big win.
Activists say they're prepared for more action if the government fails to follow through on phasing out fossil fuel subsidies. The UN's World Food Programme has resumed food distribution to 900,000 refugees across Ethiopia 4 months after suspending the aid. In June, the U.S. also suspended its food aid, accusing the Ethiopian government of weaponizing humanitarian aid as military units seize supplies. The World Food Programme said it has fully revamped safeguards and controls to ensure the food reaches those who most need it. In related news, the UN Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide is warning ongoing fighting between government troops and local militias in Ethiopia is leading to a heightened risk of genocide and other crimes in the Tigray, Amhara, Afar, and Oromia regions. In Niger, the first set of French soldiers have started to withdraw from the country after orders by Niger's military junta following their July takeover. In the capital, Niamey, residents welcomed the French soldiers' departure.
Today, this batch of French soldiers who have arrived and who will, God willing, shortly be taking to the road to return home is only the culmination of a struggle that the people have engaged in. The people are on their feet to demand the departure of the French soldiers from Niger soil, because one thing is certain: Niger remains for the people of Niger.
This comes as the U.S. formally designated the ouster of President Mohamed Bazoum and military takeover as a coup, suspending aid to Niger. But U.S. officials say they do not plan to remove any of its 1,000 military personnel from Niger. Embattled New York Congressmember George Santos was charged with 10 more criminal counts Tuesday. The superseding indictment accuses the Republican lawmaker of inflating his campaign finance reports, including fabricating contributions and charging donors credit cards without authorization. And Hughes Van Ellis, one of the last remaining survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, has died at the age of 102. As many as 300 black people were killed when a white mob burned down what was known as Black Wall Street, the thriving African-American neighborhood of Greenwood. The last 2 known survivors of the massacre are 109-year-old Viola Fletcher, Hughes Van Ellis' sister, and 108-year-old Leslie Benningfield Randall. In 2021, all 3 testified before the U.S. Congress in favor of reparations. This is Hughes Van Ellis.
Because of the massacre, my family was driven out of our home. We were left with nothing. We were made refugees in our own country.
In August, the Oklahoma Supreme Court agreed to hear an appeal from survivors of the massacre whose reparations lawsuit was dismissed in July. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York with Democracy Now! Co-host Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.